Anyways, okay. So, Jesus. Um, yeah. So, hey everyone, thanks for coming out. I'm Sarah, or you. Why did Hajun drop? What the hell? Everything is going wrong. Technical difficulties, guys.
My bad, I
Um,
accidentally dropped.
you're good. Okay, but hey everyone, I'm Sarah, or Yugi. I'm the owner of this server. I'm an atheist, and most importantly, the debater in this debate. Um, First of all, I think the most important thing is we need to define what we're talking about when we say theism. So, what I think the theist believes is that there is a tri-omni, that being omniscient, omnibenevolent, and omnipotent God, that is intentional. Um, and not only does this God exist, but this God created the universe. Now, now that we have that kind of on the table here, let's get into the problem I have with it. So, to me, it may seem intuitive, and to other people, it may seem intuitive that there is evil in the world. We look around, we see that every other day we hear a new little girl got raped. We hear a new kid got kidnapped. We hear someone died. Um, we hear that a dad went crazy and killed his entire family. We hear stuff like this. And to me, this strikes me as really odd if there were an omniscient, omnibenevolent, and omnipotent being. Now, I must be clear here. What I'm presenting is not what is commonly known as the logical problem of evil. I'm not presenting that there's a contradiction in God existing alongside what I will call pro tanto evils, or evils all else being considered. What I'm simply saying is that I think it is less expected on a theist hypothesis that there are pro tanto evils. And to me and to many others here, it seems really, really obvious that there are pro tanto evils. And so in this debate, what I'm posing to my opponent is two challenges. Either my opponent can go down the route of proving that there are no pro tanto evils, which is an incredibly hard burden to bear. Or my opponent can try and say that there are no, yeah, or Jesus Christ, or my opponent can try to say that um, it is actually not unexpected on a theist hypothesis that there is no pro tanto evils. Now that that's out, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out again, and I'll pass it over to my opponent.
Yo, was about to look up what Pro Tonto was, but it is what it is. So, what's it called? My opening statement is, well, I'm not the owner, so I don't know. Thanks for coming out to this debate, I guess. I don't know. The server's goaded, but, anyways, I just take the position of, or I take the position that there is a God, and I agree with the definition that, you proposed, which is whatever you said. I do disagree with the fact that there are, or I do disagree with the fact of the necessary or the problem of evil. Generally, I would start off by proving there is a necessary being in the first place, but if we're skipping to that part, that's fine. I don't know. I don't really have an opening statement. I usually just go into like the arguments.
Is that the end of your opening?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sure. So Hajun, do you have any reason to believe? Let's just go to a particular case. Let's say there's a little girl whose dad goes crazy, and the dad decides that he's extremely attracted to his daughter, and so he decides to brutally molest his daughter. Do you have any reason to believe that this is a necessary evil and God could not actualize a world in which this event did not occur?
Yeah, I think I'd have some sort of reason.
And what's the reason?
Yeah, my reason would generally just be by if we were to accept the attributes of God, which are omniscience and stuff. I feel like obviously from our view, yeah, it would seem prima facie wrong to say, well, this is a necessary evil, but I feel like we'd leave it up, or we'd say it's more of something we're unaware of, where we don't actually know if the thing is necessary. And obviously, due to the fact that God is omniscient, I'd say, okay, well, um, he probably, or I think just based off that, he would know if it's going to be necessary or not. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so Are you agreeing we are in the best of all possible worlds? Do you believe that is the position you're taking here?
Do I believe we're in the I'd say sure.
Okay. So first of all, I'd like an argument in favor of
Actually,
that.
actually, before that, I want to say, actually, I'll remain agnostic for the most time. I lean towards, yeah, this is the best one, but I'll say I'm not 100% sure. Sorry to
Well,
backtrack.
okay, you are aware that for your position to succeed, you have to take that, right? That is necessary for you to not fall victim to this argument.
Can you explain?
Okay, so you agree that a pro tanto evil is an evil, all things considered, or a necessary evil, as it were.
What does pro tanto mean?
Or sorry, not a necessary evil. A non-necessary evil and a pro toto evil is a necessary evil. Sorry, kind of got it mixed up there. A little blunder.
What you were asking me if I agreed that's what the definitions were?
Yeah, you agree. If there's pro toto evils, and only pro toto evils, I'll just get into the leading question. Then we are in the best possible world, right? Because all the evils are necessary. There's no non-necessary contingent evils.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and do you agree? Possibly there are pro tanto evils.
Do I agree? Possibly there's pro. When you say possibly, are you saying like, are you going under the view that, or like, are you presupposing that there isn't a god, therefore there would be
I'm just
pro
I'm
tanto
just
evils?
talking I'm just talking about the real world. Like I don't want an answer which you
Oh, real
derive
world.
from the God.
Yeah, I'd say, no, there isn't any pro tanto evils.
Okay. Um so you now agree there are no pro tanto evils. Do
Yeah.
you agree pro tanto evils are possible?
Uh, do I agree that possible? If you were to say, like, if you were to frame like a possibility of there being no God, then yeah, I'd be fine with that. But I'd just say, well, since God is
Well, okay.
necessary, then
Okay.
and uh, hmm?
So you think pro tanto evils are impossible because God's necessary.
Yeah,
Okay, great. Um so first of all, you agree we have incredibly low priors when there being no pro tanto evils.
pardon?
You agree we have incredibly low priors and there being no pro tanto evils.
What do you mean by that?
As in all of our experiences, like me, as I said, like me seeing a kid get raped, me seeing like a dad kill his family, me seeing all these types of things. You agree that specifically we have like those kind of experiences build towards a case that there are evils, all things considered, right?
Yeah, like there's a general uh agreement that evil does exist in any form.
Okay, great. And so given you agree there are incredibly low priors on pro tanto evil not existing, what you're gonna need is an incredibly strong case that does not presuppose the God view, um, that pro tanto evils do not exist. Now, the way you would go about doing this, because specifically you agreed pro tanto evils are not possible, is you would need an argument where the conclusion is there are an argument which starts with pro tanto evils are possible, which ends with a contradiction. So I hate to do this, but this is kind of the corner you've backed yourself into. I'm just gonna type out premise one, um,
Gulp.
and what we're gonna get is from premise one, pro tanto evils are possible. We're gonna try and derive the conclusion, um, some proposition of the form P and not P.
Okay. Where are you typing? Can you type like the premises in the
Well, I'll,
stage
I'll just
chat?
I'll just type it out for you. It's okay. I have it here. So premise one is pro tanto evils are possible. The conclusion is some proposition of the form P and not P. What I want is premise two and any following premises.
Where are you writing the thing out?
It's in main chat, but I haven't sent it yet.
Oh, okay. Can you send it in the side chat for stage?
Yeah, sure, I got you.
I got this chat. Oh, I
Now you
think you
can
sent
just
it.
Now you can just verbalize it, and I'll edit it for you. Like I'll put the premises in for you.
Protonto evils are possible. I kind of disagree with that. Is this your syllogism or in reference to mine?
No, okay, what you're trying to do here is get a proof by contradiction. You're trying to prove that the first premise is false by showing you can derive a contradiction from it.
So like a reductio?
Yes.
Do you think that's like necessary to disprove it?
Yes, because you disagree pro tanto evils are possible.
Yeah, I just say, well, if they were possible, then we'd have to presuppose uh the lack of God. I think this is why I was kind of confused when we just went on to presupposing there is a God, or like my argument of I guess saying, okay, well, if God does it, like more going on so the attributes or ontology of God. This is why usually I would start with discussing if there's a necessary being in itself without any like predicates towards that necessary being. So I
Okay,
just
so
say,
you
well,
agree. Okay,
if,
so real quick, you agree that this argument, like this is the argument you kind of sign off on here. Let me get it.
signed off as in like stated
Like you think these are at least the first two premises. Um,
for you or me.
for you, you are trying to get a contradiction here. So you
Protonto.
agree. You agree. Now, first of all, I do agree this argument is valid. Oh, I actually don't agree it's valid. It's valid if you're trying to get the conclusion that pro tanto evil is being possible, suppose there's no God. I guess if that's what you're trying to get to, sure. But the problem with this argument so far is it's not even getting to the conclusion you want. Now, I will say I actually do at least partially agree that the view that there are pro tanto evils does kind of assume that there's no God. But to be clear, I think it assumes in the sense that I think God is like incredibly unlikely. I don't think it makes God impossible. But second of all, I also think a big problem you're making here is you're not recognizing that we're doing like worldview analysis. We're comparing two hypotheses. So one hypothesis, that being atheism, and another hypothesis being theism, and we're taking a piece of data that being pro tanto evils exist, and we're concluding from that that atheism is much more likely.
Okay. So you're basically saying that. Can you summarize your argument?
Yeah. Okay. So the probability of theism, given pro tanto evils exist, is much, much, much lower than the probability of atheism given pro tanto evils exist, and pro tanto evils do exist. Therefore,
When you say
atheism is more likely than theism.
when you say probability, are you actually in reference to a probability, or are you just like loosely throwing around those terms?
I'm well. If you're asking me what I mean by probability, I just gave a Bayesian analysis. I'm a Bayesian.
Yeah, like under Bayesianism, to my knowledge, like when you give that sort of inference, usually you have to give actual statistics of probability. I think that I'm kind of confused on how you could do that with just rational type base claims.
No, okay. I just gave it to you. So let's just put it this way: the probability of theism, given pro tanto evils exist, is less than 0.5, and the probability of atheism, given pro tanto evils exist, is more than 0.5. And pro tanto evils exist. Therefore, the conclusion is atheism is more likely than theism.
Wait, are you saying this like percentage is like 50% or something? Oh no.
Yes, 0.5 is the neutral probability. Yes, yes, yes.
And you're saying that okay. Shit. Yeah, I would just say, well, what we, I feel like saying, okay, well, obviously these said evils exist. I'd just say, well, that's dependent upon what we think evil is, and
Well, okay. I just take evil to be a
yeah,
moral wrong. Do you sign off on that?
am I wrong? Under our view, yeah, but obviously this kind of goes back to the fact that, well, originally I think, okay, well, we would have to discuss there being a necessary being in the first place.
Well,
Because
okay, Hajun. What we're doing
yo,
here is we're taking the hypothesis that a necessary being exists and we're comparing it to the hypothesis that it doesn't. And we're taking some piece of data and showing that the probability that a necessary being exists is lower than the contrary. We are actively talking about the hypothesis.
Yeah, but like I didn't really. What I mean is like usually there's like two different stages of theism. Like we would discuss okay the cause of the all contingent facts or like the universe or the first mover or whatever, and then we would go on to the attributes of God. Obviously, I'm sure you
Well,
would agree, or I'm sure you wouldn't really necessarily disagree with there being. Well, I don't know. I don't know how to word this. Most atheists that I've talked to would say, okay, there can be a necessary being, but the necessary being not might not just subscribe to the properties that we give it. For example, omnipotence. So, like,
but
there
you
could be a
agree that's what we're
necessary
talking
state
about,
God.
right? You agree
Yeah,
that is
like
the thing we're
stage
talking
two.
about, like the triomni God? Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I agree. That's usually what I go under. But what I'm more saying is, um,
But for this,
we haven't
for the sake of a
established any
wait,
argument
real
for
quick,
their.
real quick. For the sake of a conversation, you agree we're talking about a triomni being, right?
Uh, for the yeah, I guess.
Okay. So even if I were to grant you right now that there's a necessary being, what we're talking about is a triomni, necessary, intentional being.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I can just grant you right now there's a necessary being. There could be like a necessary alien out there that caused the chain of causes or something. Or like it could be something like that. What we're talking about right now is if the conception of God goes through.
Yeah, so I think just from that, I would say, well, if there's a necessary being, we have to establish there being. Well, I'd explain why this necessary being is gonna lead towards these said properties if we presuppose a necessary being existing. But then I'd
Okay,
just say, okay,
Hajun.
well, our perception of evil would actually differ from what's like actual. Like, obviously, what we see can be distinct from what is actually the case within reality. And I feel like, obviously, if there is a necessary being, well, they're gonna actually know what is gonna be considered morally right or wrong, or how they can determine if something is necessary or unnecessary.
Yes, Hajin, I agree. I agree with everything you're saying right now, aside from like the weird thing that like if necessary
Concession? No,
beings
I'm
exist,
joking.
like except for the thing like if necessary beings exist, they're triomni. That's really weird. But I agree. If God existed, He would know the best thing to do. He would know the only types of evils that are necessary. And I actually think He would actualize those evils. The point here is that we look out in the world and we see these things that are seemingly not necessary evils, and from that we can derive that God is less likely. That's the point.
I'm just saying from my like I what I'm just saying is when we say seemingly, that's been kind of like just based off our perception. Obviously, if there were to be a triomni God, their perception of how things work or if things are necessary would be distinct. So we couldn't. I wouldn't. I'm just saying that we shouldn't just base off like the. I don't think we should base like this argument off of our actual like our own experience because that might be unreliable in like front of actual. I don't know.
I
I
think.
think you
Do
get what
you
I'm saying.
do you agree we should accept positions that are likely over positions that are not likely?
Depends how the position is laid out.
Uh, Jesus Christ. Do you believe all else equal, if a position is more likely, you're more justified into taking it?
Uh, depends what it's responding to and how it's laid out, like the context.
Do you agree if theism is less likely than atheism, you're more justified in taking the atheist position?
Less likely, under our view, it might like be prima facie less likely. I'm just saying, I don't think that's going to justify it being
No,
less
this isn't.
likely in actuality.
No, it's not less. It's not prima facie. First of all, we're considering data. Prima facie is immediate. But second of all, um, okay, Jesus, sorry, that like stun locked me. Um, second of all, holy fuck. So the view that you, depending on the context, sometimes you should take views that are less likely is completely fucking insane. That's crazy. No one will ever take that. Because the way in which we base out understanding things and the way in which we base out like what views we ought to accept. And to be clear, that's an epistemic God. Um, are the views that are more likely. The reason why I accept that I exist, or the reason why I accept that the external world exists, is because those are more likely. The reason I accept I'm having a conversation with you right now is that it's more likely. And now you may say, well, that's some subjective judgment. Well, maybe I agree, right? But the problem is, even if we were to analyze, suppose I was an objective Bayesian, right? Say we were to analyze the things we're saying right now and the piece of data that I laid out. Say we assumed uniform prior. Say I accepted all of that. It would still come out that atheism is more likely.
What's it called? I think, yeah, obviously, generally, we'd say we base off arguments from, or we'd say an argument that sounds more likely is going to be considered above something else that's more likely, or not considered as likely. But like, if there was a case where we have two scenarios and one has less, what's it called? One has less presuppositions, um, or whatever, how you base off like likelihood. But the other one sounds more coherent. Well, we'd say one might sound more likely, but the other might sound more coherent without some sort of like previous empirics. How will we determine? Like, I'd say, well, the more coherent one would probably be the case.
You're conflating likelihood with simplicity. So I actually agree. The more coherent one would probably be the one that we accept, but that's because of some other epistemic virtue I accept. Right? I think uniformity with my past beliefs is actually a stronger virtue than simplicity. Right? And so I would actually agree, given the other hypothesis is more uniform with my past beliefs, I would accept the other hypothesis. But say I didn't accept this virtue, fucking obviously the more simple one is more unlikely. Even you would accept that. There's no way you wouldn't accept that. What?
My whole my whole point is saying that there can be one that's more like has less presuppositions, but we still consider the more coherent one that has more presuppositions over that one. And the analogy is also saying without some sort of um like past empirics, how we can't just go off which one seems
Okay.
more likely. And to my knowledge,
Okay, so
usually probability is based off what's it called? What's the word for it? Shit, I forgot. Probability is usually like things like parsimony is usually based off like uh how many presuppositions are within it. I think like
uh,
probability can go hand or coincide with Occam's razor or stuff like that, like
okay.
principles.
Okay. Jesus Christ. So I think parsimony is an epistemic virtue. Um so I think I do factor in parsimony. I do think about how simple a hypothesis is whenever I'm examining it. But I also examine other things, right? Even whenever I'm just building priors, which is what we're doing right now. I build priors in the sense that they're uniform to my past beliefs, or I build priors in other senses, right? Perhaps um, perhaps that it's a less outlandish claim, right? Perhaps others like other stuff like that. These would be the types of things that I analyze, right? Now, I think the reason you're coming to the conclusion that you're at is because whenever we calculate probability, we already have these things built in. We have these epistemic virtues there, even if we're not actively thinking about them. But obviously, to me, and obviously to I think everyone here in this chat, if our priors for hypothesis are higher, then the priors for the hypothesis are higher. We're gonna accept the hypothesis, right? Now, I think what you're doing again is that you're kind of baking in these assumptions, right? You're baking in the uniformity with past beliefs. You're baking in the how outlandish the claim is instead of just analyzing it based off of simplicity, which is what you're talking about. I actually agree that if we're just analyzing simplicity, it's more likely, and you should accept that theory. Obviously, you should, right? But I don't think once we kind of consider the other virtues, you should, or you should. I think you shouldn't.
Uh, can I get a summarization on that?
Okay. I think whenever you're giving this hypothetical, you're baking in assumptions that you're not really thinking about. You're kind of subconsciously baking in assumptions. Now, I think if the question were to be answered honestly on your end, and you were to think about it, you would agree that if the position is or the hypothesis is more simple, but perhaps the it makes some outlandish claim. Given a position being outlandish doesn't make him doesn't make it have less prior probability, or you agree that like something being kind of concordant with your beliefs doesn't make it less likely, um, then you would agree that you should take that position. I just think you're making in other assumptions.
Uh, I don't want to concede, but like, um, what's it called? Wait, so you're saying like my analogy thing? I don't think it's like, oh my fuck. You're saying basically my analogy that I gave. If I were to actually think on it, I'd probably disagree. Or like my point I gave. I'm frozen right now. My phone froze. That's good.
Yeah, I think if you were to judge it without considering the other types of virtues you have, you would come to the conclusion that I came to about it. But I have those virtues, and you have those virtues, and I think most people have those virtues, and we subconsciously consider them, even when we mean not to.
Oh, I'm live real quick. My thing's lagging. I gotta reset Discord. Is that fine?
Yeah, you're fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I mean, great debate going on here, right, guys? I mean, lot going on. Good faith. Let's let up. Emily, you want to come up, give a little, halftime show? Oh, actually, never mind. Hajun's back. Fuck you, single.
The goat is back. What's going on?
Yeah.
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 Uh,
Okay, so you
what?
heard what I
Well,
said, right?
no.
Okay. So what I said was, I think um, that whenever we're making these judgments, we're subconsciously considering epistemic virtues. I think we're subconsciously considering things like simplicity. We're subconsciously considering things like concordance with our beliefs. I think we're subconsciously considering things like how absurd a hypothesis is. And even if you don't mean to, I think what you're doing, whenever you're saying, I don't think that it's more likely, is I think you're baking in the assumption. Um, like you're baking in those other virtues, even if you don't mean to. Um, and in doing that, you come to the conclusion that you shouldn't accept the view, even though you agree with respect to simplicity that it's more likely. And I think it's kind of a fault on your part, though I don't blame you. I think this is incredibly common, like in discourse.
Uh, you know, I could. I don't. What's the word? I don't want to sound. So, I don't want to like lie, but I also don't want to like. I don't think that addresses my point. You know, I think we should conclude for you.
Uh, okay. Are you sure? Are you positive?
Yeah. I mean, I don't. If you want my honest opinion, probably I'm not really positive, but
Do you want me to explain it again, just to make sure?
I'm
I
sure.
don't want to hoe you here, buddy. So I think,
On my DM.
yeah. Uh, uh, you know what? Never mind. If you want to just cut it end it here, it's fine. Um, you got it, buddy. Um,
Right.
do you wanna conclude first, or should I?
Uh, I think I'm super good. Um, but you can conclude first.
Okay. So so I think sorry. So I think what happened here was Hajun misunderstood the purpose of my critique. Um, he thought he thought the critique was assuming atheism when it's not. It's doing a cross examination of two different hypotheses and concluding from the set of data that the theist hypothesis is less likely. Later, once he did that, we moved on to this point where I asked him, does he believe that you should accept hypotheses that are more likely? And he said, it depends on the context, or it depends on the hypothesis. And I said, that's completely and utterly fucking insane. That's not how anyone thinks. And then he gave me an example where he said, let's say we have these two hypotheses. One hypothesis is simpler, as in it posits less entities or makes less assumptions. But the hypothesis happens to hypothesis happens to make some outlandish or absurd claim. Well, I take the view, and everyone else takes the view, that hypothesis is less likely, but due to not due to the simplicity virtue, due to another virtue, or rather two other virtues, that being absurdity and concordance with our beliefs. And I told Hajun, I think him coming to the conclusion that this hypothesis is less likely is simply due to the view that he's kind of simply due to the problem that he's baking in the assumptions that he's trying to eliminate in the hypothetical. And then eventually, after I said all this, Hajun said he does not think it attacks what I'm saying, or it attacks what he's saying, and he asked to conclude. And that's how we got to the point where we're at. Hajun can give his conclusion.
Uh, so my conclusion is everything Yugi said, but like I addressed all his points for you. And, I'll just get in better for you. Very informative debate. That pretty long debate, back and forth. That's my conclusion. Half the people left joined. Damn, that's embarrassing for me. But yeah, W debate. I definitely, I definitely didn't lose.
Yeah, great. I'm not sure we want to do. I'm not sure we want to do polls because there's like trolls in the server, but
Let's do polls.
nah. Would you be fine? Well, let me just look through the people who've been here. Would you be fine with Void or 12 judging? Probably not Void. He doesn't like judging. He gets angry.
Yo, Void, you trying to judge? I'm joking. Yeah. Who's 12? Or we can have single Phoenix.
I don't think Single's here. I was literally about to shower. Fair enough.
He's there. He.
Hey, Single. You want to judge Single?
Is this thing on?
Yeah.
No.
Do you guys need a judge?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if we don't do judges, we do polls, and there's like a bunch of trolls active right now.
Well, why you don't need to do either of those. You just stop talking and just like let people have their thoughts.
But it's a tournament debate.
Oh, is it? Oh shit.
Yeah.
To be honest, I